Hello friends, this is Odds, and today we're going to be covering every single perk in Dead by Daylight. Roughly speaking, my subjective opinion, do not sue me. That's all I had to say. Let's get in with the perks. Next up, we have Ruin. And Ruin is one of the most impactful perks. It's a hex perk, it goes without saying, so it stops working the moment it is cleansed. That is its only real downside, is a generator that is not actively being touched will begin to go down. So in 180 seconds, a generator that's 99 will fully deplete itself, and that is not. If you have Sloppy Butcher, any other add-on or perk to help the killer slow down your healing, if you take the time to heal, that's gonna be time where a generator is slowly going down. Of course, if you leave survivors completely alone on generators, you never force them to get out of them to help, or you never pressure directly, then Ruin does literally nothing. It's still, in my opinion, one of the strongest perks in the game that is used even at competitive levels, or basically any killer. We have Corrupt Intervention. Corrupt Intervention is a very, very simple perk. Out of those 7, whichever 3 just happen to be the furthest from your randomly chosen spawn point will get blocked. So this basically means that the survivors will, more often than not, spawn right next to generators that they cannot immediately do. And this is a complete game changer for slower killers and even for the average killer. And now there's only 4 generators to patrol. So for those 2 minutes, you only have to worry about those generators. This, I would run this perk on basically any killer. I think on Lesion in particular, you actually want survivors to be corralled in one corner when they start, so you can use your power better. Amazing perk, get your hands on it from the plague. Next up is Bob Goes the Weasel. And this is an amazing perk. Every time you hook a survivor, you activate it for 45 seconds. Now, as it says, it does 25% of its progress. Now, this is very misleading. Some people think that this takes the progress that's currently on the generator and it takes away 25% of it. That's not true. It takes 25% of its total. In other words, if a generator is at 50, it will go back to 25. If it's at 25, it's going to go back to 0. And then that generator, if it doesn't get touched for a little while, will continue to regress at its normal rate. As I said earlier, some people run Ruin as a plan A, and then when it's gone, then they use Bob Goes the Weasel as a plan B. Imagine that you have 4 survivors, and you have only hooked the Dwight. It's the end of the game, and you have only hooked the Dwight. He's dead on hook, and now you down Claudette. Normally, if you didn't run Bob Goes the Weasel, I would tell you, leave the Claudette. If you pick her up, you're giving everybody else too much time. With Bob Goes the Weasel, you have a good reason to hook anyone because that hook turns into regression. So that is another really nice thing about Pop. Next up, Tinkerer. When a generator gets to 70% progress, this perk will trigger. It will give you a unique animation on a generator that almost immediately you will become undetectable for a whole 16 seconds. That is massive. Just that information alone is worth a perk slot. The nice thing about Tinkerer is that it's not limited to triggering only once. If you interrupt a survivor and then you pop their generator, or Ruin makes their generator go back below 70, and then they get back on it, you're gonna get warned and you're gonna get the undetectable again. And the really nice thing is that sometimes, even if you are not gonna interrupt the generator, at least you know how long it's going to take for it to go off. You know that it's going to be 24 seconds, maybe less than that if there's multiple survivors. You can know with discordance if you have it on. If you learn to look a little bit sideways as you approach a generator, with Tinkerer, you'll catch even the Spinechil users off guard unless they're very, very perceptive. So, yep, very strong perk that helps you do what you need to do. Discordance. You want to have it at level 3, 128 at level 3, it's basically the entire map. So that part is completely irrelevant. Is anytime 2 or more survivors are on a generator, the generator turns yellow. And this stays for 4 seconds. So you need to be a bit careful. When the match starts, it's very, very common for 2 or 3 survivors to be next to one generator. You never, ever, ever want to do something else. You want to immediately bother these 3 or 4 survivors on that one generator. If you're a killer that just needs to chase survivors as soon as possible, then you know that you need to go there and start pressuring them. Don't try to make it too obvious that you have it. Some survivors are smart and will figure it out. whether it goes off or not, it should always give you some sort of information, and there is no match you'll play where discordance won't at least help you in some small way. For that reason, 5 out of 5 perks. Wish more perks were like this. Next up is borrowed time. This perk is stupid. It triggers every time you unhook a survivor, and for 12 seconds that survivor is virtually invisible. Invincible. Maybe invisible too. Pyramid head cages, borrowed time will not work. Sometimes the killer can be a bit sleazy and outweigh the 12 seconds. If a survivor can take a hit and go off a little distance, it's a free escape at the end of the game if you get it. If a survivor steps on a bear trap, you can get hit and snap out of the bear trap and still be up and running because you have borrowed time. Yep, many strong things. Decisive Strike. Decisive Strike is an extremely powerful perk. For 60 seconds, the perk is active. If the killer grabs you, you can hit a skill check that is fairly easy to hit and stun the killer for a whole 5 seconds. That is a huge amount of time for the average killer. If you allow the perk to go off entirely, or if it gets disabled by one of the things we're going to say, then you can use the perk for the next time you get unhooked, if there's such a thing. If you heal yourself passively with inner strength, adrenaline, second wind, etc., as long as you don't do the healing action yourself, then it's all fair. You will still have decisive. Unbreakable is a really powerful perk. A survivor on the ground will need 30 seconds before they're ready to be picked up. Now those 30 seconds are more like 20 seconds. You can actually keep yourself at 99% to make that pickup quicker. And that is awesome. Sometimes as a killer, you might be able to realize that a pickup was too fast and think that maybe Unbreakable or We're Gonna Live Forever was in play. Opt to use up this perk by picking yourself up. You can only do that once. Even though this will disable the perk, you will still get the 35% faster recovery. Why is Unbreakable like a 5-star perk when there's alternatives? Unbreakable is strong just on the fact that it exists and that survivors are forced to pick up. It still is a really strong perk with Decisive Strike. What if they pick you up, Decisive? If they don't pick you up, you use Unbreakable. You can still use it in conjunction with Soulguard to guarantee at least one free pickup and free tank of a hit. And when you consider all of that, Unbreakable is really a one-man army of a perk. Next up, Sprint Burst, at least the second best exhaustion perk in the game. With Sprint Burst, you have one of the most reliable ways to delay the first hit, and there's also the fact that survivors can become very good at 99ing their Sprint Burst. Will have their exhaustion nearly depleted. You will chase them, and then when you catch up, then they'll stop running for 1 second and immediately speed off into the distance to quickly make it to a flashy save, to quickly make it out of basement when unhooked, to quickly go for a pallet save. It is a pain in the ass and a really good perk. Dead Heart is an incredibly strong perk. It is one of the most popular, maybe top 1 or top 2 exhaustion perks for a very good reason. You can Dead Heart past a trapper trap. You can Dead Heart through a doctor's shock and a doctor's blast to avoid their effects if you time it well enough. So Dead Heart basically makes you invincible. Next up, Iron Will. This perk is dumb good. It makes your grunts of injuries completely silent. Not only that, it makes any noise you make silent. When survivors are healthy and you're very close to them as a killer, they do breathing noises. Heavier breathing when they're running. Little panting. With Iron Will, as soon as a survivor is injured, they stop all breathing, they stop all panting. If you're playing a spirit, to very accurately pinpoint the footsteps if you want to track a survivor. You can go into a locker, make 0 noise, and if the killer doesn't notice your blood, you can be right behind the killer. If they're not paying a lot of attention, they can go for a flashy. If you have other perks to help you hide yourself, Lucky Break, Dance With Me, Poise, this will be even better. Very strong perk. Next up is Adrenaline. In the vicinity of 4 to 5 stars, giving it a 5-star, this perk is really good. When the killer closes the hatch or the 5th generator is completed, you will be healed 1 health state. You get an equivalent of a sprint burst for 5 seconds, which is a lot of distance. It will also wake you up if you are playing against the nightmare. If you need to mend, the mending will count as 1 health state, so you will go from mending state, deep wound, to injured. And if the killer puts you in the hook and you are eventually rescued, you'll also get adrenaline. 3 or 4 survivors healing immediately through Sloppy Butcher, through Cobraphobia, through any add-on that inflicts slower healing immediately is potentially a lot of time saved. Only downside, of course, is that it will exhaust you for a little bit afterwards, so you won't immediately be able to use your other exhaustion perks. Kindred, another extremely powerful perk. Kindred might just be the one exception. The information from this perk is so good that even Survivor Friends players use it. If you're a solo player, this perk is your best friend. This perk works while you're on the hook, and then it works for everyone else. And it also works when someone else is on the hook and it works for you. Even stealth killers are not always undetectable right after they unhook. So a Wraith, you can quickly see which place he's headed towards and avoid an ambush. A Trapper that puts someone in the basement and begins to trap around it, you will see every step. Oh, there's so much advantage from that. The fact that it helps you but also helps your teammates is just too much. This perk is amazing. Yeah. By this point, if you've been watching this far, you and I are basically best friends. I hope this video was entertaining, and I'll truly be seeing you in the next one. Bye bye.